space, a brand new chart. For the head and for the heart, it's your journey, your tools.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something pretty universal, I think. That voice inside your head. The one that's always judging, doubting.
The inner critic.
Exactly. That relentless nagging that just magnifies tiny flaws, whispers you're not good enough. It can honestly feel like this internal tyrant, can't it? Driving shame, anxiety, holding you back.
It really can. And it's exhausting.
So let's unpack this. Let's figure out how to maybe turn the volume down a bit.
Well, the first thing to grasp, and it sounds a bit strange, is that this critic, it often starts out, believe it or not, trying to protect you. That's what the research suggests.
Protect us from what? By telling us we're terrible.
Sort of, yeah. Or protect you from pain, more accurately. Think back to early life, maybe critical parents or tough peer groups, societal pressures.
Okay.
That critical voice develops by internalizing those external voices. Its job, back then, was maybe to anticipate criticism, to help you avoid punishment, or dodge the sting of rejection or failure. It was like a primitive survival tool.
A really harsh survival tool.
A very harsh one. And the problem is, this outdated strategy sticks around into adulthood. What was maybe a crude shield then becomes this major psychological barrier now.
Right. So it's not serving its original purpose anymore. It's just causing problems.
Precisely.
Okay. So our mission today isn't about declaring war on this part of ourselves, which sounds impossible anyway. It's more about what? Learning to spot it.
Spot it. Understand where it came from. And then this is the crucial part. Apply some practical skills. We'll look at 3 really solid evidence-based approaches from psychology.
Which are?
We'll draw from cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and also compassion-focused therapy. The goal is to lessen the critic's power and, cultivate a kinder inner voice.
All right, let's get into it. Where do we start? With understanding the enemy, so to speak.
Yeah, let's start with the diagnosis, understanding the critic's narrative.
Okay, so before we can challenge it, we need to know its tactics. The sources we looked at point out that the critic tends to hammer on the same few themes, right? Always rooted in these really deep fears.
Exactly. Fears of inadequacy, fear of failure, fear of social rejection, those big ones.
And recognizing those patterns is key because it shows you it's not objective truth, it's just a habit, a fear-based recording playing.
That's a great way to put it. It's a conditioned pattern. Think of it like recognizing different characters in a play. If you know who's speaking, they lose some of their power. It's not just this overwhelming truth.
Okay, so what are these recurring characters, these critic types?
Well, the literature consistently points to about 5 main ones. First, you've got the perfectionist.
Ah, I know that one. Nothing is ever good enough.
Right. It demands flawless performance. Everything's black or white, perfect, or a total failure. There's no middle ground. Okay, who's next?
Then there's the taskmaster. This is the one relentlessly pushing you. Do more, work harder. It whispers you're lazy or you're not doing enough.
Driven by that fear of falling behind.
Usually, yes. A deep anxiety about not keeping up. Then, often working alongside it, you have the comparer. Oh yeah, the one that's always scrolling through everyone else's highlight reel and pointing out how you don't measure up.
Exactly. Constantly measuring you against others, making sure you feel inadequate. Fuels envy, low self-worth. It's nasty.
Definitely. What else?
Then you get into the darker territory. There's the guilt tripper. This one uses shame like a weapon.
Constantly bringing up past mistakes.
Over and over. Making you feel like you're fundamentally flawed because of something you did maybe years ago. Keeps you stuck in regret.
Wow. And the last one.
Perhaps the most insidious. The underminer.
Why insidious? How does it work?
It gets you before you even start. It whispers doubt, telling you you're not capable, that trying is pointless because you'll fail anyway. It just kills your confidence at the root.
That sounds like pure sabotage, just paralysis.
It really is. It stops you from even taking the first step.
Thinking about those 5, perfectionist, taskmaster, comparer, guilt tripper, underminer, is there one that tends to be, I don't know, tougher to deal with or causes the most deep-seated pain?
That's a good question. Generally, the ones most tied into core shame can be the hardest. So often the guilt tripper.
Why?
Because it doesn't just criticize what you did, it attacks who you are. It tries to convince you that you are a mistake, not that you made a mistake.
Yeah.
That's a much deeper wound.
Yeah, that feels different.
Which is why a key strategy with all of these is learning to externalize them. To catch yourself and think, Okay, the guilt tripper's back with its old stories
Yeah.
instead of just instantly absorbing it as the truth about you.
Right. Recognizing the character on stage.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know the players. Now, how do we start working with them? What's the first skill set?
Let's start with cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is a very practical, hands-on approach.
And the main idea behind CBT is?
It's based on the principle that our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors are all interconnected. They influence each other in a cycle.
So if you change the thought.
You can disrupt the whole negative cycle. With CBT, we treat the critic's statements not as facts, but more like hypotheses, things to be investigated and questioned.
Okay, testing the hypothesis. How do you do that systematically?
CBT offers a really structured way, usually in 3 steps. Step 1 is just catching the thought, using something often called a thought record.
A thought record, like a diary for negative thoughts.
Kind of, yeah. It's about becoming aware of those automatic negative thoughts. They call them ANTs sometimes. So when you feel a strong negative emotion pop up, like, say, intense anxiety, you pause.
And write it down.
Yes. You note the situation, what was happening, then the feelings, name the emotion, maybe rate its intensity, like anxiety 80%, and crucially, the automatic thought. You write down the critic's exact words, verbatim.
I'm going to completely bomb this presentation, something like that.
Exactly like that. Getting it out of your head and onto paper is powerful. It kind of takes away some of its looming, vague scariness.
Makes sense. It's concrete then. Okay, so you've captured the thought. What's step 2?
Step 2 is putting that thought on trial, using what's called Socratic questioning.
Putting it on trial. I like that image. But it sounds kind of demanding. Is it easy to get wrong? Like, what's the common mistake people make here? Do they just argue back emotionally?
That's probably the biggest pitfall. Trying to just fight it with positive thinking, like, no, I won't bomb it, I'll be great. The critic usually just laughs that off.
Right.
Socratic questioning isn't about cheerleading, it's about logic. Cold, hard evidence. You ask disciplined questions.
Like what?
Okay, what's the actual objective evidence that supports this thought 100%? And just as important, what's the objective evidence against this thought? You have to actively search for the counter evidence.
So look for times I didn't bomb a presentation, for example.
Exactly. Or other ways to view the situation.
Yeah.
What might a supportive friend say about this thought? And then you look at the impact.
The impact.
Yeah, what's the effect of believing this thought right now? How does it make you feel and act? Versus what might happen if you chose not to buy into it so strongly.
Okay, so it's a real investigation.
It is. And doing this consistently chips away at the critic's credibility, which leads you smoothly into step 3.
Which is?
Creating a balanced alternative thought. And this is key. It can't be a fake, overly positive affirmation. It has to be realistic, believable, and grounded in the evidence you just gathered.
So instead of I'm going to bomb this presentation, what would a balanced alternative look like?
It might be something like, okay, I'm feeling nervous about this presentation, and there's a possibility I might stumble on a few points, like I have before.
Acknowledging the fear.
Yes, but I've also prepared well, I know the material, and I've given successful presentations in the past. Even if it's not perfect, it's an opportunity to share my work, and I can handle imperfections.
That feels much more realistic and less paralyzing.
Exactly. It's evidence-based, acknowledges the difficulty, but focuses on capability and learning. Practicing this rewires how you evaluate yourself.
Okay, CBT sounds powerful, challenging the logic. But I can imagine if that critic is really loud or you're feeling overwhelmed, trying to run a Socratic investigation on every negative thought sounds, exhausting.
It can be, and that's perfectly valid. Sometimes you just don't have the energy or the headspace to debate your inner critic, which is exactly why we need our second skill set.
Okay, what's that?
This one comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. ACT takes a different angle. It suggests that sometimes fighting a thought just gives it more power, makes it stickier.
So instead of changing the thought,
You change your relationship to the thought. The goal isn't necessarily to make the thought go away, but to stop it from controlling you.
letting it be there, but not letting it drive the bus.
That's a classic ACT metaphor, exactly. It's about cognitive diffusion, seeing your thoughts for what they are. Just words, images, electrical blips generated by your mind.
Not objective reality, not direct orders.
Precisely. They're like clouds passing in the sky, or commentary from a radio station you don't have to tune into. They're signals, maybe, but not the absolute truth.
Okay, I like that idea of distance. How do you practically create that distance? What are the exercises?
ACT has some really neat, simple techniques. One of the easiest is just a tiny linguistic shift.
How so?
When the critic pops up with, say, "I'm so incompetent," instead of just accepting that, you consciously rephrase it in your mind, "I'm having the thought that I'm so incompetent."
Ah, just adding, I'm having the thought that.
Yes, that small change creates instant separation. It frames it as a mental event, not a fact about you.
That's simple, but seems like it could be quite effective. What else?
Another really popular one is to name your critic.
Give it a name, like Bob the Bully.
Huh? Could be. Or the judge. Or the worry monster. Or, like you said earlier, Gremlin George. Something specific, maybe even a little bit silly.
Naming it. That sounds really useful for making it feel separate, like not me. But could that backfire? Does giving it a personality sometimes make it, I don't know, feel more real or harder to ignore? Like you've created this character you now have to deal with.
That's a very insightful question.
Yeah.
And yes, it potentially could if you give it a really serious, menacing name. But the trick is often to make the name slightly unimpressive or even humorous.
Like the Committee of Doom and Gloom.
Perfect. Something like that helps you recognize it as this predictable, almost theatrical pattern your mind runs. When it starts up, you can mentally go, "Oh, there goes the committee again," with a bit of an eye roll, rather than feeling personally attacked. It externalizes it.
Okay, I can see that. Makes it less personal. Are there visual techniques too?
Definitely. Visualization is powerful for many people. You can imagine the critical thoughts as leaves floating down a stream.
And you're just watching them drift by.
Exactly. Or imagine them as passengers getting on and off a bus while you're the driver, just continuing on your route. You notice them, but you don't have to engage or go where they want to go.
Letting them pass through without latching on.
And one more, which connects back to the critic's origins, that protective intent we talked about.
Right.
You can try thanking your mind. When the critic flares up, trying to warn you off something scary, you can mentally acknowledge it.
How? Say thanks for the warning.
Sort of. More like, "Okay, thank you, mind, for trying to keep me safe here. I hear the warning, but I've assessed the situation, and I'm choosing how to proceed. I've got this."
So you acknowledge the misguided protective function without obeying the fearful message.
Exactly. It reduces that internal conflict, that feeling of wrestling with yourself. It's gentler.
Okay, so CBT challenges the logic. ACT creates distance. Both seem very mental, very cognitive. What about the emotional hit? That feeling of shame or fear the critic stirs up.
Excellent point. That's where our third skill set comes in, drawing from compassion-focused therapy, or CFT. CFT directly addresses the emotional core. Well, the inner critic basically activates our internal threat system, fight, flight, freeze. CFT aims to deliberately activate and strengthen our other systems, the ones related to soothing, safety, and contentment. It's like building an internal antidote.
An emotional antidote. I like that. How does it work? Does it start with the body?
Often, yes. Since the critic triggers a physical stress response, tight chest, rapid heart rate CFT often begins with calming the body. A core practice is soothing rhythm breathing.
Just deep breathing.
Slow, rhythmic, gentle breathing. When you feel that critic attack starting, that physical clench, you intentionally slow down your breath. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Doing this for even a minute or two helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system.
The body's calming system.
Right. It tells your body the immediate threat is past, helping you feel safer and more grounded before you even try to deal with the thoughts.
Okay, calm the body first. Then what?
Then you move to actively cultivating a compassionate inner presence. One key exercise is developing your compassionate self.
What does that involve? Imagining someone kind.
Yes, deliberately conjuring an image or felt sense of a perfectly compassionate figure. This could be an ideal version of yourself or an imaginary wise and kind friend or mentor. The key is focusing on their qualities: wisdom, strength, warmth, and complete non-judgment.
So you create this ideal supportive figure in your mind.
You do. You really focus on what they'd be like, their gentle facial expressions, their kind tone of voice, the feeling of unconditional acceptance they radiate.
And then?
Then the practice is to consciously direct that warmth, that kindness, that understanding from that compassionate self toward the part of you that is struggling or feeling judged. You offer yourself the support you might offer a dear friend.
That sounds lovely, but also potentially really hard for some people. Being kind to yourself doesn't always come naturally.
It absolutely doesn't.
Yeah.
Which leads perfectly into the next CFT practice, compassionate letter writing.
Writing a letter to yourself.
From the perspective of that compassionate figure, yes. You mentioned it's often easier to be kind to a friend than to ourselves. This exercise uses that.
Okay, but how do you get past that initial awkwardness or resistance? If you're deep in self-criticism, writing a kind letter to yourself might feel fake or undeserved.
That resistance is totally normal. The key is to really commit to playing the role of that unconditionally loving friend for the duration of the writing.
So step into their shoes completely.
Yes, suspend your own self-judgment for a bit. First, identify clearly what you're beating yourself up about the mistake, the perceived flaw. Then, embody that compassionate friend.
Okay. And what does the friend say in the letter?
The friend acknowledges the pain you're feeling because of the self-judgment, validates that it hurts. Then gently reminds you of your shared humanity, that imperfection is normal, that making mistakes is part of life and learning.
So it's not about pretending the mistake didn't happen?
Not at all. It's about holding the mistake and yourself with kindness rather than harshness, expressing care, understanding, and encouragement for how to move forward or learn from it.
Okay. So you write this compassionate letter. Then what? Just put it away.
The crucial last step. You need to read it back to yourself later. Maybe even read it aloud. And try to read it using that warm, gentle, compassionate tone of voice you imagined earlier.
Let the message actually sink in.
Exactly. That helps the compassionate message start to register emotionally, to begin to overwrite those old, harsh, critical scripts. It takes practice, but it can be incredibly powerful for shifting that internal landscape.
Wow. Okay, so 3 really different but complementary toolkits. CBT to challenge the logic, ACT to get some distance, and CFT to bring in that warmth and compassion.
That's a great summary. Challenge, detach, and cultivate kindness.
It feels like a comprehensive approach.
It is. And it's important to remember, taming the inner critic isn't usually about silencing it forever. That might not even be possible. It's more like learning to turn down its volume,
Reducing its influence.
dramatically reducing its influence. So it's not running the show anymore. It's an ongoing practice, noticing the critic, choosing your response, using these skills, and consistently strengthening that more supportive inner voice. Over time, that really does change your internal world from one of conflict to one of, hopefully, more self-acceptance.
Shifting the balance. Okay. So we started by saying the critic often began as this misguided attempt to protect us from rejection or failure way back when.
Right. A primitive survival strategy.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. Even if that voice was originally trying to protect you from certain kinds of pain, what are the real costs today of continuing to believe it? What actions are you not taking? What opportunities are you missing? What connections are you avoiding? Simply because you're still listening to that outdated, fearful voice. What's the price of that protection now?
It's the strength to build anew. It's the light to guide you through. It's the choice to find your way. Starting here, starting today.
And that's our toolkit for today. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next week for a brand new episode, The Power of Self-Compassion, where we talk about introducing the 3 core components of self-compassion as an antidote to self-criticism. You won't want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button now and check out yourjourneyyourtools.com and the app for all the extras. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on your journey next week.